Hello,
Good.
everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on family building through gestational surrogacy and egg donation, specifically designed for LGBTQ plus hopeful parents. My name's CJ Alexi. I'm a client relations advisor here with Family Source Consultants, and I'm joined by Eric Pellegrini, our client relations director. I'm really excited to be here with you today as we all explore this
Likewise.
incredibly important and personal journey of building a family. As we know, every path to parenthood is unique, and for many LGBTQ plus individuals and couples, surrogacy and egg donation provide a beautiful opportunity to fulfill their dreams of having a child. However, this process can sometimes feel complex and overwhelming, which is why we're here today to help break down these topics, address common concerns, and provide practical guidance. Family Source Consultants and me and Eric are happy to be here to walk you through these topics. Thanks for joining us, and let's get started.
Absolutely. Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, so Eric, how do you find an agency or clinic that is truly inclusive and experienced in working with non-traditional families?
Absolutely. It is a very important factor to consider for LGBTQ plus families to make sure whoever they do work with is aware of their unique situations and understanding of their lifestyle and supportive of finding it. So there are certain aggregate agencies, Men Having Babies, Gays with Kids are some great resources that can provide you and point you into the right direction of agencies that are supportive of LGBTQ plus families. And just a simple Google search, social media, and good old word of mouth. It can be very valuable, especially if you know somebody who created a family with an agency or you're using surrogacy and egg donation. They'll probably be your most valuable resource and trustworthy resource to find out who is the best person to work with for your needs.
Yeah, definitely. Getting everybody's experiences, especially friends or family members, is important because true experience is better than anything that you can find on the internet too. But yeah, so what questions should LGBTQ plus hopeful parents ask when vetting agencies or fertility clinics to ensure that they're supportive and knowledgeable about the unique needs of non-traditional families?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a time to be very blunt and candid with these agencies, with these fertility clinics, and ask, have you worked with LGBTQ plus families in the past? Do you have a process? Do you have a procedure set up to support the unique needs of this particular family making subsect? This is a has its own unique circumstances that must be understood completely by the agency and by the clinic. So, being very blunt with your questions, have you worked with this? What procedure do you have in place? What sort of protections are in place for LGBTQ plus families with our unique situation? How are the surrogates and egg donors vetted? Are they asked questions? Is it a match? Is it a mutual match process that these surrogates or an egg donor, if it's going to be an open donation, are aware and willing to work with an LGBTQ plus family? So at the end of the day, asking questions as bluntly and as directly as possible for your specific need is going to be the best way to really get a feeling of how that agency or clinic approaches our unique community.
Yeah, absolutely. And these relationships that you'll be moving forward with whether it be your clinic or your agency, it's going to be a long relationship. The process takes quite a bit of time. So you want to work with someone that you feel secure and comfortable working with. And that's really important to consider as you make that decision. Um, are there specific resources or directories for LGBT families seeking surrogacy or egg donation services?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, there are Men Having Babies is a very valuable resource. Gays with Kids is a valuable resource as well. The American Society for Reproductive Medicine has a great database of nationwide of agencies that are specifically geared towards LGBTQ plus families. But really, any agency should be open and willing to work with any sort of family. So it's going to be a matter of your own personal preference of where you feel that you are treated the best, you have the most respect, you can rely and believe on what you're being told by that agency or clinic. Trust your gut when it comes to that. But there are a number of resources out there for you. And again, always ask if you know somebody. Ask those clinics, ask those agencies to refer past success stories to you. to make sure that they have worked successfully with LGBTQ plus families. That'll be big, no matter whatever agency you decide or resource you decide to utilize for building your family.
Yeah, definitely. And for non-traditional families, navigating the legal aspects of surrogacy and egg donation can be complex, especially when it comes to ensuring parental rights. Laws can vary greatly depending on where you are, and the added layer of legal protection is critical for LGBTQ plus families to safeguard their rights from the very beginning. How do legal requirements for surrogacy differ for LGBTQ plus parents, and what can be done to ensure that both parents' rights are fully protected?
Absolutely. This is going to be one of the most vital aspects of the family building journey is making sure that everybody is legally protected. Given the unique situation of LGBTQ plus families where perhaps only one or maybe neither parent are genetically related to the child, the expected child, you need to be sure that all those legal protections are in place at the onset. First and foremost, consult an attorney. They know what they are. There are many attorneys that specialize and only work in the field of surrogacy and egg donation protections for these families. So they would be your first resource to go to a consultant to follow their advice, of course. You want to be sure that your parental rights are recognized. That is a key. Checking the state law is very important to see how for any surrogacy, whether that be heterosexual or LGBTQ plus, how those relationships are recognized under the state law, individual state law is going to be very important. Pre and post birth orders are going to be an important aspect to this as well to make sure it's in place. So once the baby is here, everything is all copacetic, lined up, spelled out, and there are no mysteries of what's going to happen because all of this was considered before the eventual birth of your child.
Right. And then what are those potential legal challenges for non-traditional families regarding the parental rights, especially in cases where one or both parents have no genetic connection to the child?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's where, again, these legal agreements that will be in place, prior to the birth of the child. So, for example, second parent adoption orders will be filed and completed by that time. Pre or post birth orders. Every aspect of this will be outlined in the contract with your eventual surrogate and or egg donor. Every aspect of the relationship, the communication, the expectations for both the intended parents and the surrogate will and should be clearly outlined by your attorney for any with any agreement that is signed prior to starting the relationship.
Yeah, and it's great and always encouraged to work with providers that are specializing in surrogacy law or family building law. You know, that's an important piece that so that they know that they're writing the contract specific to the state legislation where the delivery takes place. So
Absolutely fine.
on that piece, but understanding the medical side of surrogacy and egg donation is essential too, especially for non-traditional families. There can be additional considerations to take into account, from navigating the screening process to finding supportive medical professionals. The medical journey for LGBTQ plus families might look different, and it's important to be prepared. Are there any specific medical challenges that non-traditional families should be aware of when it comes to surrogacy and egg donation?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, depending on the family, you can have certain situations where if you have, say, a same-sex male couple who are both wanted to have a child for their own, maybe one or will not be able to, or both. We need a sperm donor on top of an egg donor. Similar with lesbian couples, they might not have the proper egg, their eggs might not be viable and they would have to have a donor. So you're going to have those specific situations, especially when it comes to the LGBTQ plus family building journey. There will be one part of this that's going to have to be, outsourced. So that's going to be a lot of medical considerations to make sure a sperm donor is appropriate and medically cleared, and egg donors appropriate and medically cleared. And then that's when your fertility clinic will do evaluations, genetic testing on both yourselves and the embryos to make sure that everybody is compatible with each other from that. And that'll be something that is very important to be doing prior to during that embryo creation. But other than that, it's really going to come down to any other standard medical considerations for any intended parent and surrogate journey. If you're care, you know, you're if you're the sperm donor, having a medically cleared donation. Same with being an egg donor, and if you're a carrier for for lesbian couples, to make sure that one of those partners has the capacity to carry a child to term.
Yeah, and how do clinics approach the medical and psychological screening process for surrogates and donors when working with LGBTQ plus families?
Sure, absolutely. So for any sort of journey, the donor, the surrogate are going to have medical and psychological screening to make sure that not only are they a good fit for you, but that it's good for themselves to be undertaking such a monumental task, for somebody else. So you want to be sure that everybody has their psych evaluations, completed to make sure that they are mentally sound and have the proper support around them for the process, for the journey. Um, and you're going to want to also be sure that, again, that they're medically cleared. So if you're having a surrogate, you want to be sure that their body, the BMI, their body can handle carrying a baby to term. Is going to be very important, and that will be determined by the combination of your doctors and the fertility clinics.
Yeah. And that's also really important to find the reproductive endocrinologist and clinical team that you feel comfortable with, but also has the experience of working with gestational carriers and knows what is considered a good candidate versus a candidate that may not be suited for the process.
Yeah, absolutely. They
Um,
need to be cleared. We might have a match, you might want to work together, but then they get to the doctor and they say, actually, this isn't the right fit for you, and you have to go back. So that's an important part to consider and make sure is thoroughly completed prior to any transfers to make sure that you're getting your journey off to the right start.
Right. And ensuring that everyone involved in your surrogacy and egg donor journey is supportive and understanding of your family's unique structure is key.
Yes.
Non-traditional families may face additional challenges in finding a surrogate or donor that's aligned with their values, which is why cultural sensitivity plays a crucial role in this process. How can non-traditional families ensure that their surrogate or egg donor understands and is supportive of their family structure?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great question. And as I mentioned before, it comes down to asking specific questions of the agency, of the surrogate, of the clinic. Are you comfortable carrying, for an LGBTQ plus family? That's going to be the biggest question for this particular subsect to make, because there may be surrogates who are not comfortable with that situation, and you certainly would not want to go down that journey with somebody who was not understanding of your personal situation. So I think that has to be the first question you ask at the onset to your agency, surrogate clinic, to make sure that anybody that is surrogate or donor working with your specific family understands the makeup of your family and is comfortable and accepting of it, most importantly.
Yeah, working with a fantastic agency, they will be very in depth with the questioning that they are asking you to make sure they fully understand what's most important to you in a match, what you are looking for in a surrogate, so that they can fine-tune the recruiting cycle and provide the most mutual match possible. Uh,
Absolutely.
what role does cultural competency play in choosing a surrogate or donor, and how can parents make sure that all parties involved are respectful and accepting of their family?
Sure, absolutely. Like I said, being blunt and honest. Making sure when you have that meeting with your surrogate, during that initial match, like see if you're jiving well. Like again, that your will tell you like this is the right one for me. They understand me, and you can get a sense of like this is the person I want to help. So you have to also be honest and supportive with your family. There's going to be a lot of families of LGBTQ plus individuals who are perhaps not understanding for cultural, religious reasons. There's only so much we can do to overcome those objections, of course. But you know what? Having a blunt conversation with people who love you of why you have this need and desire to create your own family goes a very far way. Again, blunt, candid, honest, of something that means so much to you and really conveying that to your family, to the clinic, if who may not be understanding, can go a far way of trying to get them to looking at it from a different perspective, coming at it with love and understanding for this member of their family versus some sort of preconceived cultural or religious notion that they have to have and would hope to overcome for supporting of their own family.
Yeah, surrogacy and egg donation are deeply personal stories. And, for LGBTQ plus parents, fostering a positive relationship with your surrogate or your donor is important to creating a collaborative and respectful experience. Let's talk a little bit about how to approach this dynamic and navigate challenges that may arise. Um, how should LGBTQ plus parents approach building a relationship with their surrogate or their donor?
Sure. Well, I can speak from a personal experience. Having a son of my own with my husband through surrogacy. When we were first matched and discussing with our surrogate, we were had a ton of questions on how she lives her life, and what she expects from us, of how we could do this. We had a situation where our surrogate lived across the country from us, so everything was going to be remote. It was going to have to be a lot of trust involved. A lot of sending of pictures and FaceTiming and all of that. So being sure from the onset that we enjoy speaking with each other, we have a nice rapport with each other, we have an understanding of the expectations of communication throughout the process is going to be very important and something that should be discussed with your surrogate directly during the matching process, and then once you are matched moving forward, always constantly being in touch with each other, having the agency help with any sort of discrepancies that may arise. That's what they're here for. But again, as with all things in this whole journey, open communication, candid discussions, and questions are going to be key.
Definitely. And really building that relationship of trust early on is important just because having that foundation of trust really makes your relationship more comfortable as you move forward through the pregnancy into the delivery. You know, having that foundation of trust and comfortability through the journey, she will likely be providing you as the parents the updates before she provides those updates to the agency. So, really creating that relationship and ensuring that goes smoothly from there is important.
It
Um,
really is.
what are some common challenges that non-traditional families face when communicating with surrogates or donors, and how can you really overcome those?
Sure, absolutely. Those challenges with are inherent in all and most things the LGBTQ plus community does with the society at large. There's going to be cultures, there's going to be religions, there's going to be just types of people that do not understand it, are not accepting of it, and that's just going to be the fact of the matter. So, having an understanding of the expectations, an understanding that there are going to be some hurdles to overcome for your family, even if your surrogate is accepting. Her family might not be, or the community she's with might not be, and that's going to have to be something that is discussed and understood at the onset. I think it's very important to set expectations properly at the beginning, like you were saying before, the open trust, creating that sense of trust, creating that open communication right away with your surrogate and continuing throughout the process is going to be vital to supporting them should any issues arise of ignorance and misunderstandings surrounding them. Knowing that there is a group of people there supporting her regardless is going to be really, really important for that.
Yeah. And should LGBTQ plus parents seek a surrogate or donor who share similar values regarding their family structure and LGBTQ plus inclusivity?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's going to be, I don't see any other way around that. Again, that's where you do in your mutual matching process. It has to be very clear that whoever's working with us understands we are a same-sex couple, and is not only okay with it, but embraces it full-heartedly. That's going to be the most important part. It'll help with your building of trust, and just your feeling of security with the whole journey going through, knowing that this person you're partnering with on something so important shares your values.
Yeah, and also at the onset, understanding that as you will have requirements for what you're looking for in a surrogate, the surrogates are also will have requirements that they're really looking for in a match. So some surrogates may not want to match with LGBT families. Some surrogates may only want to match with heterosexual couples that have experienced infertility, or vice versa. There may be some surrogates who are only looking for
Yeah.
LGBT families. And it really plays into the surrogate has her own expectations and motivations for becoming a surrogate. And the agency is really seeking to find the most mutual match possible for a successful and smooth journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that term there, mutual matching, is really vital. This has to be a two-way street. It can't just be like a contract. Okay, you, and then we go forward with that, and there's no trust or understanding or set expectations. We really have to have that at the onset that both parties are excited to do this together, and they are mutually partnering together to create this baby for and creating this family. It's very important.
Right. And the surrogacy and egg donation process can be emotionally complex for everyone involved, but non-traditional families might encounter specific emotional challenges. Access to tailored counseling and support is critical to ensure that LGBTQ plus parents feel supported every step of the way. What types of emotional challenges are common for non-traditional families throughout the surrogacy and egg donation process?
Sure, absolutely. For same-sex couples, there is this unique element where one of you will not have a genetic connection to the baby. It's nature, and this is the way it works. So, there has to be between your couple very blunt, candid conversations, as I like to say, that understanding one of us is going to be the genetic parent. Maybe you'll have a sibling where you do it, but let's just say there's only going to be one child, and who is going to be that the genetic carrier for that child. So that's going to be something that any couple, same-sex couple, really needs to have a deep connection and understanding with each other to make sure that they are proceeding in a way that is acceptable to both of them. And not only acceptable, but again, embraced and embodied, that knowing doesn't truly doesn't matter who is genetically related to the child. Once they are there, you are a family, and you both will have your mark on that child. But it is something that could be cause a little emotional strain for certain couples and should be discussed clearly with each other. And if it's not the type of conversation you can have with each other, maybe consult a couple therapists, or some sort of therapy session could be helpful, just to help delve into things that you maybe don't even think about, are factors in your considerations, or making you look at things in a different way. That's a third party can also help with navigating those challenges.
How can those non-traditional families find that specific counseling and emotional support tailored to their specific needs?
Sure, absolutely. So again, their agencies should be able to refer. That's the big role that agencies play. Are having different contacts for all the different various aspects of the journey. So consulting with referred psychiatrists from the agency, word of mouth, friends. If you have your own sort of specific therapist you've worked with in the past, of course, would be one of your best resources. Hey, don't discount your parents or closest friends. It's a great sounding board. Maybe they don't need a professional opinion, but it is always nice to at least hear something from somebody you trust, and share your thoughts with somebody else. I think would be your best bets to find somebody that could be a little more suited for your specific need.
Yeah, and it takes a village.
It
There's a
does.
lot of people that will be involved in your surrogacy journey. So you just have to be prepared to be communicating with all possible, options to helping you get through the journey from point A to point B.
Absolutely.
Financial planning is a major component of surrogacy and egg donation. LGBTQ plus parents may face unique financial hurdles or opportunities that other families don't encounter. Let's dive a little bit into how non-traditional families can plan for their financial realities of the journey. Are there additional financial considerations or resources available specifically for LGBTQ plus parents pursuing surrogacy and egg donation?
Yeah, actually, there are a few numbers. As I mentioned already, men having babies, engaged with kids, men having babies actually have a grant program where they do help um, same-sex couples with starting the process, as we know, can be quite expensive. There are a number of family building grants out there. The Cade Foundation is one that helps both heterosexual and LGBTQ plus families with providing financial assistance and planning. There are fertility financial advisors actually out there that you can find on Google to help specifically. And you know what? GoFundMe could be a resource. There's a lot of same-sex couples that actually have found success putting their story out there, sharing it with the world. And there are a lot of people who want to help create families. So while that might not be the most traditional method as, say, a financial planner, that has had success, and it could be an option for certain types of couples that maybe a little more social media savvy and out there than some others.
Yeah, and any option is a great option. And how can non-traditional families manage the costs of surrogacy and egg donation, particularly if facing additional legal or logistical challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. There will be a little, you will incur a few more expenses in a heterosexual couple with, should you need a second parent adoption or any sort of those parental rights contracts that could add up. Again, that's where the agency could come play a lot too, with outlining you exactly, we'll share with you exactly what costs will be incurred, the certain programs that can help you mitigate those costs, as well as the certain agreements that you can enter into to finance this, to finance your journey. Um, Budgeting is going to be a big deal of this. Really creating a plan, sticking with it, research, payment plans. I've heard a number of people that go dip into home equity could be an option, that some certain people, should you own a house, that you can use those funds to help spark your journey. So there are a lot, it's a very expensive, very long process, no matter how you cut it. But there are ways to make it happen with, the grants of financial advising, budgeting, and other methods we discussed.
Really great advice there in regards to the financial aspects. And finally, family dynamics and identity play an important role in the surrogacy and egg donation process. LGBTQ plus parents may have specific considerations when it comes to discussing their child's origins and building relationships with extended family. This part of the journey can shape your child's sense of identity and belonging. How can LGBTQ plus parents prepare to explain their family structure to their child in the future, especially if both using surrogacy and egg donation?
Absolutely. Again, I can speak to personal experience from this, having my almost 7-year-old. And there's, it's obvious. Like, there's no way this child's gonna know pretty quickly that their family doesn't look like everybody else's. So we took the approach of always making sure from the get-go he understood that he is different, that he has two dads. There are a number of great books. Tango Makes Three was our favorite, that you can start reading to them right away to understand there are all different kinds of families out there, and all that really matters is that they're loved. And as your child gets older, you can share more and more information with them, of course. Showing, if you have a picture of the egg donor, that can be very helpful to give a sense of where they come from, or any sort of information as your child gets older. And also just making them understand that not everybody's going to be cool with it. Not everybody's going to be understanding of the situation, as we've talked about earlier in our discussion. There are going to be, cultural, religious aspects to people having resistance to same-sex families, and making sure your child understands that could happen. It might happen, and you know what? Who cares? Like, move on. All that matters is we love our family. You are loved. We are accepted, and who cares what anybody else thinks? That's the way we. That's at least the way we approach it. But it is a reality of same-sex couples having children, and I personally think that it should be addressed with them from the onset, and evolving as they get older.
Yeah. And what are some unique aspects of navigating extended family dynamics as a non-traditional family in the context of surrogacy and egg donation?
Sure, that's going to be a tough one. I had met some friends that they family was very unaccepting of it, and they just forged ahead, but it ended up unfortunately damaging the relationship with their parents. But that was something that felt they wanted to do as a couple, and it was important to them, and they took that risk. There's only so much you can do to convince people of your existence, and what you want to do. You can't change a lot of minds, but persevere, see it through, share as much as your journey as you feel comfortable with your family, and over time, hopefully they'll come around and understand that, and seeing you be parents, that how wonderful it is, reminding that you are their child, you are their family, and they provide the love to you that you've given them, and love is love, family is a family, and there's family comes in many different ways. So.
Yeah, that's for sure. And how can LGBTQ plus parents maintain an open dialogue with their child about the origins in a way that fosters inclusivity and pride in their identity?
Absolutely. So this is where something where when you have the surrogate and or egg donor, when that process starts, you will have your future communication outlined. So, are you going to be able to hang out? Are you going to have contact with this person in the future, or is it completely closed? My personal situation, we have contact with our surrogate. We actually went to visit her earlier this year for the first time, and so he knows where he came from and how it came from. Um, and again, that's part of our sharing with him his story as he's evolving, showing him the pictures, showing him his baby book of where he came from, the pictures of the surrogate pregnant, so they can really understand where he came from. And again, and then going forward, that communication with your surrogate or egg donor will already have been established at the onset of the agreement. So I guess you would have to align how you're sharing your information and what information your child can go with that agreement and preconceived stipulations of your arrangements. But I think overall, open open dialogue with your child is vital. Making sure they know they can come to you with any problems, any concerns. If somebody says a negative comment about them, that they feel comfortable sharing that with you and knowing to let it work, to just let it roll off their back, and who cares, that's just not a good person anyway. That's not somebody I need to be friends with anyway, kind of an idea. It's just really important that your child always knows they're loved, they are supported, and they can come to you to speak for about anything. And that applies to same-sex parents and heterosexual parents. That is really the key. My turn so far to having a successful, harmonious family is knowing that everybody's loved, everybody's understood, everybody can share what they need to share.
Yeah, absolutely. Being open and having that communication flow is key. And thank you so much for sharing your advice on all of these topics, and especially sharing your personal experience with surrogacy. That's invaluable to people that are looking into their options for creating their families. So I know that all of the people that will view this will really appreciate that. So
My
thank you
pleasure.
again for your advice, and thank you to all for tuning in and watching our webinar. It's been really helpful and impactful, and I hope that you all have found some really great tips and tricks as you begin your journey to becoming parents. So thank you so much, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.